Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdist Dave, and today I am joined by JB from Drop the Die. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good, good. Like I always see you, super active on Twitter and doing things over there, talking about D&D and gaming in general. So I was like, you know what? Let's get on here and let's chat and talk. So for people who aren't familiar with it, what is it that you do?
I am a full time creator for tabletop games. I'm a writer, editor, social media manager, and layout artist. I also am self published on the DMs Guild. It's where I mainly get my start. And I do product reviews for dropthedie.com. That was the very first kind of foyer into tabletop stuff, was doing reviews because I had no clue what to buy and very little money. And there
Yeah.
weren't all that many reviews in the early days. So I just got a couple companies to send me stuff. I'm like, look at this. It's gorgeous. This is worth the money.
Unless it's not, of course.
Yeah, we had a couple of those. They're not very happy when the review's not not glowingly positive. But
Yeah, I mean, I so we've done a little bit of reviewing. I really don't like reviewing stuff, to be honest with you, because I I only really like to talk about things that I like, and not so much about things I don't like.
it takes a critical kind of mindset, I think, to
Yeah,
do it and do it fairly. And with a background in English is actually what I have my bachelor's degree in. So many hours of workshop and workshopping stuff that I hated,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
have to say the positive things and you have to give those recommendations for specific instances. So it's a little bit easier to see once you've done that for 1,000 hours in college. But yeah, it always takes a little something out of you to say something bad.
yeah. So, what kind of stuff do you like to work on?
What I like to work on the most is probably DM aids. I like to give seeds, ideas for DMs to kind of develop in their own games. My absolute best sellers, bar none, are 50 notice board quests, which are just one or two sentence what you would see on a small town flyer and nothing else. There's no guidelines for the adventure, no telling if it's true or not, just the post itself. And people seem to really resonate with that because it leaves the doors wide open for them to create and do whatever they want to with that idea. And Taverns, Inns, and Tap Rooms, which is just a set of, I think, 12 taverns, inns, and tap rooms with the full menus, the people who work there, some quests, some magic items, and little idea seeds to sprinkle everywhere in your adventures.
I
So I
might have good
really,
news or bad news for you. I don't know.
uh
Have you seen the Twisted Taverns Kickstarter?
I have not.
It went
No.
up like 3 days ago from Logan over at RuneSmith. And when I looked at
Runesmith
it,
does good stuff.
RuneSmith does have good stuff. I like Logan, but it was over 300,000.
That's good. That's very, very good.
Yeah,
uh, I'm never, you know, I never get upset when other people release that kind of stuff because we all have different stuff to say. We all do it in a little bit of a unique and different way. So
yeah,
hopefully people get like salivating and hungry for more taverns and go and buy my stuff too.
yeah, yeah. I was just saying, you might have had $1 million idea.
Oh, for sure. It sold banana pancakes. It's a Mithril bestseller at this point, which I never
Nice.
really expected. And
What
a
does that even
huge
mean?
Mithril bestseller. Let me pull it
Is
up.
that above
Uh,
gold? That's above gold, right?
yes, it is gold and then platinum and then mithril, and the highest rank is adamantine. So for mithril, you
Yeah,
need more than 2,200 sales.
nice.
So the fact that it got there, never in a million years would I have guessed it. And a huge part of that is thanks to Allie Briggs, the artist who did my cover work.
Okay,
That
yeah.
cover, our ideas working together, that cover just really knocked it out of the park for both volumes of Taverns, Inns, and Tap Rooms.
How many titles do you have over on the DMs Guild now?
I have. I'm glad
I
I wrote
believe
all
we
this
got a
down.
link down in the description as well.
Uh,
So if
I
people want
have
to check it out.
30, currently 30 titles on the DMs Guild, and 27 of them are bestsellers,
Oh,
copper to
nice.
mithril. So we're
Which
doing a
three
pretty
aren't
good
pulling
job.
their weight? Which three need to go go into a
Um,
timeout?
well, actually, the three that aren't really great sellers for
Yeah.
me are the three that I made for patrons for free, and I did it
Okay.
because of their support and to give back to them. And they gave me permission to post it on the DMs Guild. So literally, if it made $1, it
Yeah,
did its
yeah.
job
Did
because
it
I was
still?
already going to make it anyway.
Nice. Um, you've also done some writing for other people as well, right?
I have. I've worked with Action Fiction on some of their most recent work, Monsters of Merca, which is this American setting in a high fantasy world where you've got all these different. Oh man, I'm
So
having
it's run
brain
by
fog today,
corporations and
Pat.
greedy politicians.
Yes, exactly. You have all the politicians, dragons running
Oh my god!
corporations, all
Did
this
you
kind
see
of
XP
stuff.
to level three's latest video
I did not know.
where he dresses up as Bernie Sanders as well as um Joe Biden?
Oh Lord,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds hilarious.
You got to check it out. Jacob is hilarious.
Oh yeah, most recently, I nearly forgot. I've had an absolute blast writing for Mecha Hack from Absolute Tabletop,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm also in a live stream game of that with Matt Click and Michael Barker. My God, that system is fantastic. If you've ever loved Armored Core or Gundams, those big mecha and mecha anime video games and stuff like that, it is one of my top 5 favorite tabletop RPGs of all time. It's so good.
Yeah, they recently had a successful Kickstarter as well.
They had a banana pancakes Kickstarter. It did really well, and I
Yeah.
wrote 3 missions for that, so it was really good. I went in the first time and sent them my mission, and they came back to me when they hit their stretch goals to do 2 more. So it always felt so great, and I'm very thankful that they came back for me to write additional stuff for that one product. That felt really great.
Yeah, it's on my list. I've not checked it out. I'm not familiar with Black Hack either because I believe that's the system it's based off of.
It is.
There's just always like so many games and not enough time.
There are so many. Thank God it's rules light.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
once you make your character, you pretty much have everything you need to run the whole game.
And Hankrin did the art over there. Look, right on the Mecha
I
Hack.
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of art for those guys. Which he's got a very distinctive style, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, that
Uh,
comic line art, really kind
yeah,
of grungy. It looks so good.
yeah. Well, we were playing with him in a one not a one shot, but in an expanse game for a little bit. He ended up having to drop out due to time commitments, but like he would just doodle the whole time, like while playing, and still like role play and not be missing what's going on in the game, and like incorporating notes into his doodling, and it was just fantastic.
That's so
How do you do
good.
that? Do you have like two brains? One for one for the art and one for what's going on in the here and now.
So many people look at artists and are like, wizard. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, yeah, it does feel a bit like that. Especially when people are able to do like multiple things at the same time, and it seems like they're dedicating all of their attention to it. Like sometimes with streamers, I've seen it where they'll be talking to someone on the stream and having a separate conversation in the chat at the same time, and like my brain would just explode if I tried doing that.
I moderate for several streamers, and one of them, he is a savant at that kind of stuff. He'll have Discord up and be messaging
Yeah.
people in Discord while talking to chat, while playing the game, while talking in chat. It's like I have no clue. My head would explode.
Yeah, yeah. I like maybe I could type what I was saying in the conversation, but not two separate conversations. Witchcraft.
Definitely.
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, yeah. So what's next? What do you got coming in 2021?
So I'm actually slated to, and I've been picking away at it. We discussed before we went live, I've been dealing with some health concerns in 2021, but I've also been working on Action Fiction's next release, a successful Kickstarter they've already funded for Monsters and Merca restaurants and retail. The whole
Nice.
book is about like that 9 to 5 grind for
Yeah.
all these places. Guy Fieri's a dragon, like all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
I'm doing
nice.
layout on that. I have NDA thing I'm working on in a couple of months, and another NDA thing at the end of the year. And between that, I'm planning on releasing, fingers crossed, if we can get all the stuff together, I'm planning on releasing a pretty sizable handbook for warlocks that really dives into D&D 5e, how to run warlocks and their patrons, different options for different patrons and pacts and things like that. We have so many really cool ideas in that doc, myself and Autumn Graves, you may know from Twitter, but we have so many ideas in that doc that it's really starting to get me kind of excited, and it's snowballing into more and more ideas and a bigger and bigger project. But I really hope to get that one out this year.
Yeah. When you mentioned the monsters in retail, that made me think of like me and my brother had considered doing a web comic called Hell's Work, and like most of it is like devils, demons, like punching the time clock, bitching about a hard day at the poking people or putting their feet to the fire or whatever.
What I would love is the devil side or the demon side of that, just like complete chaos. And they
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back, ooh, that was rough. Keeping things fresh was so difficult today.
yeah. So since the apocalypse, how's your gaming been? The same, less, or more?
It's been the same. It's
Yeah,
absolutely nothing about the gaming has changed. A lot of people, have had some schedule difficulties and games fell through. I was scheduled to be part of 5 live streams at the end of 2020, and I was in 0 of them. So those all fell through. But day to day gaming and finding people to play with and all that has been more or less the same, especially since I moved to Las Vegas and left my 5-year group back in
yeah,
Mississippi. Just finding people online has been the easiest way to do that. So online gaming has been such a game changer for so many people.
yeah. It definitely makes it easier, and I think we're having you know almost like a renaissance within the renaissance, whether we wanted it or not. Because like it's like, oh, we're not getting together to games, so if you want to do it, online's the way. So people that initially weren't willing to break their inertia to kind of learn something new are, and that's gonna forever change the hobby, I think.
I think that looming threat, we all, I don't think that idea is going to go away. And you have some pretty popular people in streaming, YouTube, all that things that are like, I cannot imagine going to a convention and hugging 1,000 people ever again.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
that online gaming, like, I don't feel well this week, guys. Can we all do it online? And you just run the game online. It's,
This is a small bump. We'll get past it, right? Like no one worries about
yeah,
smallpox anymore. So,
eventually we'll get past it.
yeah,
But how do you feel about the, and this is just an idea that's been floating around in my brain for so long. I really think that there needs to be a different streaming platform that's just like Zoom for tabletop games. Like the combination of Zoom and Discord for the people that can't put in the work to do Roll20, who
yeah,
are unable or can't afford it, kind of thing. Just a Zoom made for tabletop. I want to be able to slide people around into different spots and have a chat that is not so interruptive. And I think that market is wide open. Viewers, take it and run with it. Give me credit.
yeah. Well, so in our games, right? So all of our games are virtual now, and Ted will set up a separate camera, and he'll do his terrain and minis and move things around. And our games have always been very like a mix of theater of the mind and miniatures and stuff. So when we zoom in and go to miniatures, now he just pops on another camera, and and we just do it that way and tell him what to do or whatever. I'll run using Dungeon Fog, which is just mapping software mostly, but then it's got like some campaign management features and stuff, and you can put tokens on it. And I'll just screen share and move people around So like there's definitely some in between things. I've seen people just use almost like Photoshop type programs
Yep.
and screen share them and make their own
Esper
tokens.
loves to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it always looks so flawless when he does it. But if
Yeah,
I
yeah,
ever
he's been
try,
doing it
I'm
a while.
like,
We played in a few sessions with him, and yeah, he's been doing it that way for a while. So he like manually basically creates a VTT, and he'll
uh,
do fog of war and all that stuff as well.
one of my early days campaigns was with Esper. I was very,
Okay,
very lucky to get that
he might be the
because
OG. He might be Patient Zero.
I think he might be for online gaming, especially with a big streamed ideology. This involved with verisimilitude and immersion kind of thing. He's probably the godfather of all that.
Like,
And
do you remember the RPG Brigade? The
I
YouTube
do.
RPG. Yeah,
I
right.
do.
So
Yep.
so I thought maybe somebody in there because and it, like the way they did it was completely different anyway. They didn't do it to talk to an audience. They did talk to each other. And
Mm-hmm.
like when they first started it, you also had video responses, and I think they would just video response each other. And even after that went away officially, they still would do that. But Esper told me that like when they started doing that, a lot of them came to him to ask him how he does it, like how he does YouTube and stuff. Um, I don't know if he was the first one to stream games though. I don't know if he was streaming them before It Me JP because he was kind of like a pioneer on his channel doing that stuff. It's kind of I don't know. I geek out on that stuff, I guess, because well, that's what we do
Yeah.
here. But
Geeking and out. Yeah.
yeah. But it's I think but I do think Esper might be patient zero for the talking head D&D YouTube sphere.
He might
Um,
be.
and then it's probably pretty close when it comes to streaming games between him and It Me JP. I don't know when he streamed his first game. That was something that came later or not.
I just remember it was so really early on. I hadn't even really gotten my website off the ground yet. And I was a big fan of Esper's top tens and like tips and stuff like that. And just one day I followed him on Facebook and he was like, we're doing this secondary group for people who want to find games. And I
Yeah,
joined that group and ended up playing with Adam Spain and Esper and Michael Barker. Like we
yeah.
got in a game together randomly. Just all these huge name people now we're just like, I'd really like to play a game.
They
Can
just a
we
bunch of dudes wanted to play
yeah,
D
can
and
we
D.
hang out? I haven't played in months.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride for sure. I mean, we're in like year 7 now, and like I remember starting, I was like the idea of 100,000 subscribers was like the ceiling, and now there's people doing well over 3. So this the space has grown.
And I think I've made 5 videos in all those years.
It's whatever floats your boat. It's hard to
Yeah.
do everything,
It
right?
really is. And you do have to kind of pick your battles, I think, because if I spent any more of my life trying to stream and on YouTube learning how to do like video editing, and yeah, there are 1,000 videos out there to teach you how to do video editing, but you still have to take the time to watch them and
Right.
use
And
them
then
and
after
then
you
look it
learn to
up.
do it, then like generally, I guess it's like you figure on like however long the video is, figure 3 times as long to edit it.
Ugh, and
You
then
know,
45 times as long to render it.
yeah, yeah. And then like then there's scripting and writing and all that. That goes into it as well. Like I was talking, I guess I was talking to Jacob, and like I just assumed he just turned on the camera and just began to be goofy, right? And then the magic happened. But he's like, no, like that takes I'll shoot like an hour worth of video and edit it down to 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. You make it look so effortless. But I guess that that's the magic of editing.
That's the craft, yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, like you can write products and write for companies, or you can do this. It's very hard to do both.
It's very hard to be your own social media manager
Yeah.
and write and produce layout and do marketing for products and do videos, marketing for video. People that do all of that usually have some kind of help. And I'm so far a solo artist. So if I can get two or three more people to help me produce stuff down the road, then I would love to make videos and take my tweet ideas that people seem to love and just make them into full form videos. But for now, I just put words on a page and hope people like it.
So do you have tips for people that want to create over in the DMs Guild to get the word out? I mean, you've been fairly successful at it. There's a lot of stuff over there to sift through, so that takes a little bit of a talent just to get your stuff found.
I think that a big, huge, glaring part of it is knowing how your social media algorithm works. Because when I said this on uh, Joby, oh my lord, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. But I did this on an art stream, and I was like, on Twitter, there is a very low chance people are going to see your post twice, right?
Mm,
They're probably going to see it once. And if they open it, they're definitely not going to see it twice unless their best friend on the site shares it again. So you can just hammer away at that retweet button every couple of days, show people again. And the same thing's true with Facebook. It's a $10 investment to promote, but every person that likes your page is going to see that promotion 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times. And being a part of groups and joining discords, just knowing where you can market safely is a huge part of it, because I've had people that just take PNG of the front of a book and write out what their thing is and publish it and get gold bestseller. I think covers, yes, thank you, Joby Door. Uh, I
mm,
think that covers are a huge, huge part of my success thus
yeah.
far. But a lot of my stuff, if you go on DM's Guild right now, you'll see the covers are absolute trash. And the reason that those are bestsellers now is because I had those big, big releases with $300-400 eye-catching covers. And people liked the stuff that was in that and went back to my older volumes and bought it. So just constantly over time, those things are going to keep selling and selling and selling. So if you make one or two and they flop, don't get discouraged. Keep making a couple more. Three, four,
How
five, six, seven.
how long have you been producing content on the DMs Guild?
That is a great question that I did not write down, but I can tell you very, very quickly. My bag of holding inventory sheet was my very first released product, and I uploaded it on June 1st, 2017.
Okay, so you've been at it for about 3 years ish.
And it just went platinum like 2 days ago, which means it had more than 1,000 sales, which is fantastic. Never
So
expected that guy to do it.
that's 10 releases a year ish.
Yeah, somewhere in there, yeah.
So yeah,
And
it's a lot of work.
my very first releases, and the reason why I suggest everyone do this, look through your own folders on your computer and find the stuff that you've made for your players. If you think other DMs might use it, take that and make it for publication. Because my first 5 releases were all stuff I made just to hand my players anyway. And when they started selling and people started really liking them, I
Yeah.
went back and made them a little more fancy and tweaked them a little bit to what people were saying and re-released them again, and they just constantly kept selling and building.
Have you ever considered moving your stuff away from the DMs Guild?
So far, no. And uh, I've never been ashamed to be like, they take 50%. I'm never gonna sugarcoat it. They take
I
50% of your
actually,
revenue.
as a creator, I don't care about that part. Like, I think
I
they
do.
provide enough value. Well,
They do. That's the thing. They
yeah,
take 50%, but you get 500,000 times that in the amount of eyes looking at
yeah,
your product. So when I'm not marketing, the fact that I even have a bestseller is marketing for me while I'm asleep. And you can't get that so far on other websites like itch.io or DriveThruRPG. DriveThru has some fantastic stuff, and if you're doing OSR or you're doing basic rules stuff or system agnostic stuff, great
mm,
place to do it. Same with Itch. But when I have worked on projects that released on those two sites, it got maybe a tenth of the number of people clicking that link and checking it out than DM's Guild did. So that marketing, it's
Yeah.
working.
So and that's why I'm like, 50%, 25 goes to one bookshelf, 25 goes to Wizards of the Coast, and you get the other 50. Like, okay. My biggest thing is like you're stuck because you can't really use it now. Like you can only put it there.
That's true, but
That
that
that's my biggest issue. So like because we do put stuff on DM's Guild, but like we use it for a very specific thing. And this is not to throw shade on people that use that platform at all. I'm just curious. Like so, like when we do our character build guides, well, we can't legitimately put those anywhere else because we can't do them without using Wizards of the Coast properties. So we put them over there so people can have them and use them or whatever. I mean, technically you couldn't put them someplace for free even if you wanted to.
exactly.
They might not ding you for it, but from a legality standpoint, whether you sell it or not isn't really relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So we use the DMs Guild for that. And it's just like a fan service. But like when we create our own stuff, for the most part, we just put it on our own website, which granted does not get nearly the eyeballs of, a drive through RPG or DM's Guild.
But relying on your already established fan base and posting stuff on your own website, once you grow to a certain size, you
Yeah.
kind of feel that tipping point when it starts to get where you have enough eyes that a product will sell 100, 200 copies or
I
something
guess
like that.
I guess like so you have the Tavern book, right? Or a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
And like one of the downsides is being on the DMs Guild, be like, oh wow, it'd be nice to maybe do one of more of these and then compile the trilogy and put it on Kickstarter, and turn it into a hardback book and really go to the next level. So that's where I see like kind of the downfall. Like if you want to get to the next level, at some point you have to figure out how do you do that.
Yeah, that also kind of intersects with what I said earlier, being a solo artist at this point.
Yeah.
When I can get 3, 4, 5 other people involved in my projects on a regular basis and they're excited to produce that content, then I can think about doing a whole different series, taking what I learned from Taverns, Inns, and Tap Rooms. My goal, if I'm going to show you behind the curtain for the Wizard of Oz right now, I actually want to do a series of Taverns, Inns, and Tap Rooms that's not on DM's Guild that goes out into the wide world.
Yeah.
And I want to hear and hire creators from Japan and Israel and Russia. I want to get people what comes to their mind when they think tavern, inn, or tap room, and make those stories and make those options for DMs. But without releasing the first Taverns, Inns, and Tap Rooms on DM's Guild, I would have had no idea that people loved it so much. And since then, and right before I did, there was another big PDF that went out. And ever since those two released and just went hog wild, people have made several other versions and been
Mm.
very, very successful for them. Like you said, there are a bunch of Kickstarters for different Taverns, Inns, and stuff. And the fact that we kind of laid that groundwork and tested that market means that everyone now knows that that's an option and that's something that they need for their home games.
So I'm curious to see where you go in the future. And also, and it is not like no by no means is these are my opinions. This is not judgment on what you do and how you do things at all.
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone's journey, and it's like we're all just trying to figure it out.
Uh, Having been, well, part of my job with action fiction for Monsters of Merca, other than layout, was doing some kind of emergency maintenance on
Uh,
some things. Because, Kickstarters, they balloon out far bigger than people expect. And they're a lot to manage for a small group of people not prepared for it, especially if they have other stuff that they're working on. So I was just kind of filling in everywhere that I could in that project to get it nice and polished for release. And the work that went into managing the Kickstarter, I could not even manage. Like, I can't imagine managing that myself. Oh, I go insane. but it is such a great opportunity for so many creators and so many products. Kickstarter has been fantastic for tabletop in general.
Yeah, it's been a weird experience for us, like figuring that out, and there's so much more than you think when you first go into it, and then also like people want updates all the time. I'm like, updates, you're talking about updates. I don't have anything new to say since the last time I talked to you guys. What am I gonna do? An update about there's nothing new. So it's like, and like, so we've been terrible with like updates, but it's also like, I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? Be like, oh, so everything's the same since the last update? I don't know.
We've done nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
that instills great confidence.
yeah. We're still, a lot. Well, also a lot with our Kickstarter. A lot of it has been just like you do all the things you need to do, and then you're just like
Yeah. At the end, Jaron and I, the creator of Action Fiction, Jaron and I made several videos talking to his Kickstarter backers, and we were
Yeah,
like, "It's done," but we sent it into Drive Through RPG for printing. It took
yeah.
them a week. They sent it back and said there was a problem on page 9. So then we had to do something on page 9 and send it back and wait a week.
And
So
they're
like,
like, oh, we looked
we
at page
we
11.
were on time. A
Yeah.
lot of hurry up and wait before the Kickstarter actually gets into the hands of the backers.
Yeah, and there ends up being a lot of stuff. You just don't know what you don't know, so you're kind of like in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what games are you currently playing?
Currently, I'm playing in D&D 5e traditional. We're doing a lot of play tests for different stuff. A lot of it's under NDA, so I can't be super specific, but I do love, just playing regular D&D. I've never gotten tired of the regular fantasy setting like a lot of people seem to be, and it's been like 10 years of me constantly playing it. But we're also picking up Dark Matter, D&D 5e, which seems really interesting. We played our first session of that, I think a week or two ago. We're supposed to be playing
Mage
on
Hand
this
Press.
Sunday. Yeah, it's a very interesting book, and the ideas that are going into it, like these insectoid races. I'm actually playing one of them, and like the ideas of how different they are than traditional fantasy creepy stuff. Like it's so different. Mecha Hack, like I said before, has been phenomenal. It's been the most fun, and it's the super fastest to play. So I've always been looking forward to those games. And there was another one that I was supposed to be playing in the next couple of weeks, but it's eluding me now. It's kind of on the fringes where we're not quite sure when we're.
Well, it's not real. It hasn't happened.
Blades in the Dark. I'm looking forward to playing that. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. I've never played it before, and people seem to rave about it, so I'm super excited.
I've not played it, and I've also heard people rave about it as well.
We definitely need more hours in the day.
Yeah. My books for Monster of the Week just came in today.
So. I really enjoyed that. I played it for a charity stream. Autumn Graves ran a game, and I played it for Jasper's Game Day, I believe. Cool, and it was super fun. Very good. I was already a huge fan of Urban Shadows. And that Powered by the Apocalypse system is always very quick, very thematic, and very narrative heavy. Loved that game. And Monsters of the Week is in the same vein. It plays very similarly. Really, really good.
Yeah, around October we did I did a 1-shot, then ended up like a 2 or 3 shot. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. This is super easy. I can run this. So now I should read the rules. But and so we just finished up an Expanse game. And
God, I love the Expanse. I haven't played the game yet. Boy, do I love the series and the books.
It's been good stuff. The game, I like the game. I don't know if you've played any of the other Age games. But it runs off that system. Like the best part about it and the worst part about it is like the same thing. Is like, so you roll 3 dice 6, and if you get any doubles, one of your dies is called the stunt die, and then if you roll any doubles, whatever numbers on your stunt die is the number of stunt points you get. And so there's like, you can kind of like make stuff up and see if your GM agrees, or you can consult one of the tables, and they have a table for like anything you would possibly do in the game, which means a lot of tables. So it can kind of like slow the game down
Hmm.
If if when you're using those stunts. But it's also super cool because you have like cool things happen in the game. But you're like, if you're stabbing something, there's a table. If there's a general combat table. There's if you're shooting something, there's a table. There's a chase table. There's exploration, different social interaction tables. So depending on what you're doing, especially if it's something that your character doesn't do a lot of, then it's like, oh, I got these stuff points. What can I do with them? And then it's like, let me
You
stop and flip
see,
through the book.
that seems like a system that would be horrendously streamlined on Roll20 if you could ever program it out so that you could click to roll the 3 dice and it just tells you what was on the table that you were trying to roll.
Yeah. Here's your options. Pick
Yeah,
one.
but
Yeah, kind of deal.
that would be so difficult to program, I think.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I'm on the clicky side, not the programming side.
True.
So yeah. So like that game was a lot of fun, and also it was very like rules light as well. It's like you're using a pistol, you're using a rifle. Everything was very much. It's not like I've played in games where it'd be like it would list every individual type of pistol, every individual type of rifle. Where this is like, oh, they all do the same thing, and you maybe have a descriptor that changes it a little bit. So this is pretty easy
That's
in
one of
that
the
regards.
things, thinking about like having the sniper do all the same thing. That's one of the things I think that I love about the black hack and mecha hack is that your character gets a damage die, and that doesn't change unless you're using like a secondary thing, unless you're using an item or something that has its own specific die.
Yeah,
So whatever I describe my character as doing does a d10 damage. And that feels so fast and so
yeah.
clean.
You don't have to think
But
about it.
so many people hate it because it waters down like my choices don't matter. A
Yeah,
battle axe does a d8, but a dagger does a d8. It's like, well, they have different properties for the actual item itself. Selling it to people who are so used to, Pathfinder, D&D 3.5 had 1,000 weapons. Like
right.
selling it to people that are used to that customization is very hard, but it's like, I promise it's so easy. I really like having less of that, not number crunch, but less of
Bookkeeping.
that, yeah, that bookkeeping for slowing down with the die and the weapon die. Because if you're already looking at tables and stuff like that, you just can't afford it. In my
Yeah,
old age, I'm getting ready for like faster RPGs. I want to be able to roll and know what happens immediately instead of all the back and forth.
just makes it easy. Yeah, and that's why so we've wrapped up that game and someone else was GM, and so I was like, oh, GM, you guys, like, here's a bunch of D&D games I could run, or do you guys want to do this like Friday the 13th Warehouse 13 style game where you work for an organization and you're going to go out and hunt down these artifacts of paranormal activity and stuff.
What's that Netflix series? October Faction? Isn't that? I haven't actually seen it, but it sounds kind of
Yeah,
like
that
that.
that would
Yeah.
be like in that vein as well.
That's cool. That's cool. And that's like
Supernatural, Scooby
it's
Doo.
an
There's so many
it's an
types of games you can run.
endless well to draw from too.
Yeah,
So I see where your head's at. It's real
it's very
easy to.
episodic too, like that style of
Oh yeah.
game, which is nice as well.
I just mentioned that on Twitter is I was curious how many people are playing because 2020 and 2021 have been so hectic. How many people are playing in like serialized episodic, just every time you play is its own contained episode. And so
Yeah.
many people said that they wanted to, but no one said that they already were.
So we were kind of doing that pre-pandemic. Afterwards, we kind of moved away from it, but for a while, we were trying to do that just because it's so hard to get everyone to the table, and it's so much easier if you don't have to explain where Bob is this week or whatever. If the game already kind of tailors to that, so we had been doing a little bit of that before. Although now it's a lot easier to get people to the table because everyone just like walks to their computer. Although I do find it doesn't matter whether you game in person or not. You always have that one son of a bitch that's always late no matter what. I'm like, dude, all you have to do is log on.
I've had so many times social anxiety. Anyone who met me at D&D Live 2019 will probably know I have crippling social anxiety. Every once in a blue moon, when I see that clock getting like an hour off from the game,
Mhm.
I'm like, I could break my foot and not go. But I try to never be late at the very least.
uh, well, now you can just pop on from your phone in the ER. So not accepting your excuses.
Several times I've had the power go out or my internet go out, and I'm just on Zoom on my phone next to like a battery powered light. Hey guys,
Yeah,
I'm still
yeah.
here. I roll persuasion.
Do you usually GM or usually a player?
The funny thing is, when I lived in Mississippi a couple of years ago, for 3 or 4 years straight, I was almost exclusively DM.
Yeah,
And since I moved out here to Las Vegas, I only DM for my patrons so far. I DM for patrons and for like close personal friends that ask me for their birthday or something. But I have so many more ideas, actionable and like ideas I can monetize when I'm a player than when I'm a DM, that I'm like, please let me just play. Just let me play, please. But I love DMing for charity streams. I've
okay.
DM'd for Jaspers, I think, 5 times now, and I will say yes every single time they ask me.
Nice. I've been thinking about putting together like a man. I'm gonna have to remember what it's called in order to use it, but you can like put together like teams, and then like your team kind of raises for charity, and then it goes to there's a website for it, and then you like
Cool
pick the
idea.
charity that you want. We've been thinking about doing that, like even if it's just like one shots over on this channel, to do get some more gaming and maybe see if we can't get some creators to come on here and run their games for us. Uh,
That's like the big one for me is I always want to see more people run more games, and especially the people that are like involved in the creation of them. So
yeah,
having Matt, literally the creator, he wrote Mecha Hack in a day and he edited it in a week and published it, right? And having him run the game for us on his stream has been really eye-opening into the mechanics and the feel and the vibe of that system. I want to experience that so much more and have people that, made
yeah.
Blades in the Dark run it and let me be a part of it. So I think that's a great idea.
Although it is a bit of a double edged sword, and it was kind of brought it up to me, and I do realize it because there's a difference between running a game for your friends and running a game on a stream, like for
Huge
entertainment.
difference.
And
Yeah.
like not all DMs are good at that. Doesn't make them bad DMs, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing in your home game, you don't really have to worry about pacing as much. You guys will just end where the game ends and pick up next week, right? But in a stream, like it's entertainment. So if you're doing things that are kind of dragging on, that's not fun to watch. But if you're at the table, you wouldn't mind it because this is it's just kind of part of the game. So
I actually had that problem. And I say problem very lightly. We had a great time. We raised a lot of money. So I feel like I won regardless. But in my last Jasper's game day stream, they got to the halfway point of the adventure at
yeah.
exactly the halfway point of our session. And then walking from the edge of town to the last part of the adventure took 40 minutes. I'm like, please just go. I promise I won't hurt you. Just go.
Just let me finish the game.
So
Yeah.
I think that players also have to have a little bit of that mindset. Like, we have stuff to do. We want to reach the end of the adventure, because they can slow it down beyond a DM's like ability
Oh
to
yeah,
achieve.
no, it's a double edged sword, right? Like when you're talking about a stream game, it's the players and the GM um that that are going to keep it moving and have to understand, especially if it is like a one shot or whatever. You're trying to tell the full story in a lot of time. It's funny. Like we'll do monthly fan games, and they're just one shots. And Ted ran it, and like they were like 10th level characters. And he's like, all right, anything that's reasonable, your characters can just have. And like it starts when they go to this other town, and like there's a shining beacon of like, here's the adventure over here, and they go like over to the tavern, and they're like, we want to shop, and he's like, shop your 10 level characters, don't you just put whatever you want on your character sheets already. And they like never really got to the adventure.
That's how it always seems to work.
Yeah.
Uh, like to have a really tight, great streamable cast, I think everyone has to be able to say what they want to say very succinctly. They need to, instead of being like, I want to care for everybody, so while they're asleep, I go into the kitchen and I make eggs and oatmeal, and they just say, when everyone wakes up, I have this elaborate breakfast
Yeah.
made for them. We have somewhere to be. Hurry up and eat. You get the same like amount of information in a much shorter time frame, but people get excited.
People
I've
do
been
get
one of those
excited.
players, yeah. In a live stream, I've been one of those players that just like realized I've been talking for more than a minute. I'm like, and then I just say the rest of it and
And then
mute
this
myself
happens.
so that I don't say anything else.
Yeah. It's and like not even just stream games, just like that whole convention or one shot. Like as a player, you just have to try and be cognizant of like and respectful of the game that you're playing, right? And know that things you might do in your home campaign aren't going to be beneficial to this particular game, and facilitating it for not just yourself but all the players at the table.
I feel so cheated because 2019 was the very first time I ever went to a convention, and I went to D&D Live and I played one session,
Uh,
and it was the epic for that adventure, Descent into Avernus. Very fun, but it was also my first epic, and that went very quickly. It was like, do you take A or B? B, all right. So we go to this point. Do you take A or B? B, all right. We get very quick.
yeah.
And then I went to PAX Unplugged, and I had a press pass there, so I felt kind of obligated to take videos and pictures. And the 3 times that I was scheduled to go play games, the games fell through, and like the table went over or something like that, or
Uh,
my friends decided they want to go get food. So I have never played a regular non-epic game at a convention, and then 2020 is doomsday and none of us could get out of our houses.
I haven't played that many convention games. I've ran more convention games than I've played at this point. I think it's pretty close. Like we did Philly Games Con that only really had one year of it, and well, it's unfortunate because it really was just show up, run, and play games, and there was not like much vending or of the other stuff. Um, and we all ran like a couple games, whatever it was to get your pass to be there or whatever. And it was cool because we had like fans show up and want to play in the game. Um, and like there's this one kid, this 11-year-old kid, Eli. He like signed up for all of our D&D games, and there was 4 of us at the time. And also like we were a little bit more raw back then with our content and the
More
videos.
rowdy.
Yeah. I blame Ryan. It's because of Ryan, my youngest brother, who was part of Nerdarchy back then, and his dad's there. When I'm like, why do you let him watch our videos? Like, you're a terrible parent.
Well, I mean, the stuff that they're letting slide for PG these days,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, maybe not. Right? If you go back to like Spaceballs, like
Yeah.
which is a while ago, they and other like Mel Brooks type films, they definitely slipped some stuff in them.
Still
Um,
some pretty serious things.
well, also it just goes to show like the rating system was so arbitrary anyway and kind of BS.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Sure.
anything goes. But yeah, so I've done a little bit more of that than actually playing at games at conventions. I've been in a couple like stream games at conventions, but actual games I think I've only played in one, and it was like a living campaign and we knew nothing about it. We just kind of showed up and broke their game. Because whatever happens, I guess, and we did things you weren't supposed to do.
Oh
Um,
Lord.
and, and it's funny because like everyone else at the table was like very vested in like this living campaign and the setting and everything, and we were just like, oh, here's an opening, let's jump in and play some D&D. um and then and then like I think I've played like a demo of Perdition for Monty Cook Games, which is
I've heard
it's a
about that, but
yeah
it's so ethereal. I know absolutely nothing about it.
yeah. Well,
Same with Tin Candles,
do you
to be
remember
honest.
Dino Riders?
Yeah.
It's that. It's literally like I'm like they kind of like I mean I love Monty Cook Games. They're kind of like highfalutin like with their games, and like they're describing this one. I'm like, you made Dino Riders, right? That's all you did. Like that was a '90s cartoon for kids. Yeah, lizard people riding dinosaurs with lasers. Yeah, that's all you did. So it's essentially that, and it's fun. It's a fun concept. People travel back in time, and you know,
So what you're saying is I should make Biker Mice from Mars as a
oh yeah,
tabletop game.
absolutely do
I
it.
bet you it would sell.
Just
I'll
go
be
back through
honest.
all the like 80s and 90s, cartoons that you liked, Street Sharks, whatever. Just put
I
it
gotta
out.
say, Matt Click releases one page RPGs for his patrons on Patreon,
Yeah.
and his newest one is Set in Stone about gargoyles.
Yeah. I did see
Garg-
that.
oh
Yeah.
my god! I'm like, why do you make things that I need? How dare you?
Nice.
That
Yeah, I did
nostalgia,
see that one.
those weird stories, they hooked us for a reason. There's a lot of creativity back then that I won't say it's lost these days, but it doesn't get approved these days. If someone
Yeah.
came, we want a gritty, realistic story about gargoyles in Manhattan and a wealthy billionaire tycoon who wants to use them for magical. They'd be like, "What are you talking about? No, we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
something bright and colorful."
Or they'd be like, give me 3 episodes and we'll see how it does.
Yeah, 3
And then
episodes.
they
We'll
would
air
run
it
them
at
out of
10 a.m.
order. They'd run them out of order on TV and keep changing the time, and it would tank and be like, this was a terrible idea.
Exactly.
Things do not get a chance to breathe anymore.
God, there were so
So,
many good ideas back then too. Those little cartoons and stuff that we would kind of just lose ourselves in as kids.
well, so now too, it's like it's not that there's not as many good ones, but there's so many of them, and everything's on demand. Like you don't have to be invested in it the way you like I had to be as a kid, because it's like it's coming on this one time on this one day, and if you don't watch it now, you're gonna never see it
I
again.
want to wake up at 5:50, or no, it was 4:50 a.m. so I can watch Captain Planet at 5 o'clock before I go
Uh,
to school. Mom, wake me up. It's not a big deal.
so I mean,
Yeah.
I guess now as adults we get to relive that a little bit and turn them into RPGs or campaign settings and explore them with our friends.
I mean, that's part of it. Nostalgia does play a factor, but I think that it's overall healthy, like for the human mind, to
Yeah.
have those same cultural touchstones with a whole group. Because when I say gargoyles, everyone that saw that cartoon remembers something from it, and you're like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, that's cool. Even if you don't remember a single name or plot thread, you're like, that was cool. I would like to play that.
Well, I mean, like this stuff, that stuff gets ingrained too, because like especially when you grow up with it, it's like you're watching it before or after school, or if you're even older, you could only watch that stuff on Saturday mornings. So I feel like that really kind of locked it in, and also like maybe you didn't have as many, or like our video game choices weren't as good, right? So there wasn't as much things vying for your attention as well.
Uh, like my niece is getting at the age where she plays bigger video games and stuff like that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, back in my day, we had to read all the voice lines.
Yeah.
It was like Legend of Legaia is my favorite game in existence, and it was basically 10 novels crammed onto a CD with some sprites that moved around.
Well, I mean, back in my day, you didn't even have graphics. There's like these. You see these 5 blocks stuck together. That's you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way.
It really has. There's so
And
many bombastically cool games these days.
are you a video game player?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually fell into a portal of infinite depth and started playing this really idiotic game called Leaf Blower Revolution. But
Uh,
normally I play regular cool games. I'm actually thinking about streaming the Resident Evil 7 teaser thing, but I know it's only like 5 minutes long.
yeah, so when Baldur's Gate came out, I was like, maybe I can start playing this, and then I'll stream it, and then it'll be like work. Then I was
I
like, no,
actually
I won't do anything else. I cannot go down this road.
I plan on streaming that when it goes live. I
Yeah.
didn't stream it when it's in open access or beta or alpha or whatever we got the invitations for,
Yeah.
only because there were practically no viewers. Nobody wanted to be spoiled.
Uh,
Nobody wanted to know what was going on. So even like the biggest streams I saw only had 200 people, 200 or 300 people. I'm like, well,
okay.
I don't want to play it and get bored of it now. And I'm
Right.
like, but when I do stream it, and I told everyone on Twitter, when I do stream it, I'm never gonna reload. I'm
I
only
just
gonna go forward.
I just kind of keep flashing back to when I discovered City of Heroes, and I was like, I spent a whole weekend just playing that game. I'm like, no, I can't do this. So, I generally do not video game because I like won't do anything with my family. I won't get any nerdy work done. I'll just like I'll just be that South Park episode when they just grind rabbits.
Yeah. Yeah. And they make games to eat up time these days.
Oh,
They
they
don't
do.
make anything quick or succinct.
Yeah. Also, like I've always tended to enjoy more action games anyway. I never really
Mhm.
got into video games that were RPGs. Like action games and real time strategy games were the ones that were kind of my jam. Like even now, like if I did play something, I'd much rather play like a fighting game than a lot of other stuff. I guess like I'm like that with board games too. Like at a certain point, I'd just rather be playing tabletop RPGs
Yep.
than like doing it on a computer or doing it on a tabletop game. Like 2 hours is the cutoff. It's like if I do something for 2 hours, then I should probably just be playing D&D or Cypher System or something else.
The most fun I have ever had playing a board game was when I convinced all of my friends to role play the characters as we played the game.
Which game was it for? Clue.
Clue.
Oh my god.
We played Clue. And it was
Yeah.
like, no, you are the reason. You killed her in the
They have a
manor with the
D&D Clue
candlestick.
now too, right?
I have no clue.
They do. They have a D&D theme Clue. D&D all the things.
And I need to find people to play that because it was a absolute blast. It was so
Yeah. Have you
fun.
played Betrayer House on the Hill?
I have not, no.
They have a Baldur's Gate version now. That game's a lot of fun. That's a game that is a game that's like right on the cusp of my time limit. But that game is enough fun that I'll give it a pass. I played Arkham Horror once. It was like 6 hours. I was like, cool to say, okay, I checked it out and did that. I'm good. You know,
Tim Lanning said he wanted to play Betrayal at House on the Hill or whatever with me.
oh
But
yeah, play it.
then
It's a good game. It's a lot of fun.
then the apocalypse happened.
Yeah,
And we haven't
yeah.
seen each other at a convention since.
Yeah. I mean, it's a game where one, it's got a lot of replayability, and it's like one of the players ends up being the bad guy, which like you keep playing for a while and until the haunt happens, and the haunt will happen to a particular player based on how the game's been going. And then like you break away from the group with that, and the group has one set of rules to win the game, and the betrayer then has a set of rules to win the game. So it's a lot of fun. The game that I became the betrayer, and I happen to be playing the little girl in it, and she's got like a high agility score, so they gave me the pistol, and then the haunt happened, and I was able to call down eldritch horrors and make them all lose. So it made me happy.
That reminds me of do you remember the game Seventh Guest from way, way back in the day?
No, what is Seventh
Oh
Guest?
man. Seventh Guest was a game where you played a group of teenagers in this like haunted death trap house, and you would have to switch between the teenagers at different places in the house to get through all the puzzles and stuff.
Uh,
That just reminds me of that, and I don't know. Those memories always make me happy. So I think that it would be something that I'd really, really enjoy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I I find that most people that are into like horror, Eldritch horror, D&D type stuff, that game is definitely a win.
Explaining to people that I'm a huge D&D nerd and do it full time, but don't own a single board game is usually pretty difficult.
Oh no, I
I'm
don't
like,
actually own many board games. Like
I'm
Ted
like,
is like,
I worked 4 days a week at a board game shop and worked for credit and never once bought a board game.
oh don't,
I just bought paints and minis and dice and stuff
yeah.
to give away on Twitter.
Well, when it comes to tabletop games, I'm definitely a filthy casual. So
Yeah.
like,
There's only so much time.
there is only so much time, and I generally don't want to learn. Like I don't want to take the time to learn stuff. I'm like, I judge a board game on how long it takes Ted to teach me how to play it. So I don't need to have a bunch of board games because he's got like more board games than some stores. So,
Wow.
so yeah, he used to run like a board game night like once a month where there would be like people playing and 4 or 5 different rooms, different games going on at a time, which was a lot of fun.
That does sound like a blast.
Yeah.
The only time I've had anything like that is we did a poker night, and I think we did it twice, and that was it. Everyone
Yeah.
was like, "We're tired of you taking our money."
Well, he had kids, and then it was all downhill from there. So no more fun.
Now, kids are another time sink. There's never enough time.
Kids wreck your body, then your life. Nah, they're great. I have a couple. So with that,
Officially on Nerd.
Yeah, yeah. We are on that we are up to the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head out.
Be safe out there, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Dave. It's been fantastic. It does not feel like an hour has passed.
Nah, it always goes by super fast. Thanks for coming on. And remember, folks, in the description you can find links to all the places. Go check out JB at Drop the Die. And until next time, stay nerdy.